But Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, I actually like this movie a little less than when I originally saw it. I'm actually kind of glad that I watched this movie a long time ago outside of context, because there's one moment in particular here. It's a lot of fun the first time, and the second time this moment came around, I pretty much just stopped paying attention and started getting ready and stuff. And that's kind of what revolves around the final conflict here. I guess we'll just start at the end. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, we get to a dream sequence at the end here, and for some reason the Volturi and them are fighting, whatever. And we get this whole long dream sequence battle. I think it's important to start here because the whole movie is building up to this point, and none of the rest of the movies are building up to this point whatsoever. So the very beginning is a lot of setup. This is not nearly as fun. Like if this was Harry Potter, if we compare it to like Harry Potter, where Voldemort has been this very, very dangerous and important enemy the entire series, and then we spend a lot of time finally building up to fight this person. That felt really satisfying. Here, it only comes in at the end where we are building up this villain pretty much just in part 2. Like, he's kind of in the other movies. He really doesn't do too much, the villains and the fighting is not the main focus of this series, and then suddenly in part 2 that's the only focus. But we'll get to that. But there's this whole dream sequence at the end when they fight, and it's a dream sequence, so you see like a bunch of people dying, etc. And it's like 15 minutes or something, and it's just a complete waste of time because it's not real. So that hurt the movie quite a bit for me, and it also hurts everything before it as well. I think it ultimately makes the movie a lot more and the story a lot more boring here, because you just feel a little bit cheap. Like why? I don't know. What do you guys feel about like dream sequences and stuff? I think this is one of the problems where like people get to the. This is like any other movie where if you watch it and you get to the end and they're just like, it was just a dream. That never feels satisfying. It's not satisfying here either. It's not satisfying here either, unfortunately. And so much of it is around this point. But we'll start at the beginning where oh god, where Bella, and it starts out with Bella and Edward just kind of touching each other. Right? It's just Bella and Edward touching each other at the very beginning of this movie. Bella's now a vampire and she's hyper aware of everything. I don't know. I like when people are trapped and they think they get out but it's just a dream. I like when people are trapped and they think they get out, but it's just a dream. In this movie, very unsatisfying, like you said. Like 127 hours or 1408. Yeah, I think context is definitely important here. Like 127 hours, I agree. That scene is not, because it's that was a very that at least for 127 hours, that scene is just like a moment or even a couple of moments. And it doesn't feel like that scene also doesn't feel like fan fiction or just like kind of living out this. It doesn't feel like it's shock. Like this movie, the reveal is shock value, kind of. Oh, what was the word yesterday? Appeasing fans or like fan teasing to kind of see your favorite people fight and run around, use their powers and get their heads ripped off. Like everyone's getting their heads ripped off here. Fan service, so it's fan service, shock value, and I can't remember the last thought I had about it, but it's ultimately much less meaningful. It's a lot. It can be summed down into a single line in that the main villain, the main Volturi, sees himself die, and it causes him to not fight them. And that's what that whole like 15-minute scene comes down to, is that him making that decision. But it's very unsatisfying, like you said. But what a weenie. Yeah, you just have all these strong reactions to everything, which worked the first time around, where I was legitimately shocked. Like, I remember freaking out without having any context here. Kinds of Kindness has a good Am I Dreaming sort of sequences. It can definitely work. Like, it can definitely work. Yeah, there are a lot of examples of it working, and a lot of examples of me liking it and stuff. Here though, it hurts the story overall. It definitely hurts the story overall. You feel a bit cheated here. It starts with them touching each other. Um, she's super strong. Bella's super strong, and there are a lot of great lines, at least at like the beginning of this movie, where Edward is kind of like, it's your turn not to break me. And she's like hugging him, and she's got red eyes, and she's running all over the place, and they run through the woods, and she's like aware. I suppose for people who read the book, you don't feel cheated. Yeah, I wonder what the difference is there, or how much context that really adds. And that could be because in the movie we just spend so much time on it. I don't know how much time they spent on it in the books, or if things, because these movies are split up into two parts. The first one was really, really focused on Edward and Bella. Like that is the main focus of part one. Part two, it's not really about them. The beginning is barely about them, and then the rest of the movie is about them collecting people to get on their side and building up to this confrontation that ultimately isn't rewarding. It's actually fun because in the book you can't see what Alice that would be great. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, that would be better. It's actually fun because in the book you can't see what Alice shows Aro. I can't commit to reading books. I can't either. It's nothing, just a moment, and then it moves on and you don't know what he saw. It definitely, even without knowing that, this scene felt like fan service. It felt out of place, and it slowed everything down. Or, I mean, on a second watch it did. On a second watch it did slow things down for me, because I kind of just stopped caring and paying attention, because I was just waiting for the moment where it was all over and none of it mattered. It's like the epitome of just, as J Apocalypse would say, action porn. If you watch that scene, it's only to enjoy all of the like head ripping off, and we do get like some. And the kills aren't, because so many people die. Like everybody dies. And so many, and they're like, there's like one fun one, but for the most part they're really not even that exciting to watch. You're mostly just like freaking out at everybody, like all of your favorite characters. Like I think there was one good one where this lady grabs him by the face and rips his jaw in half. And that was fine. But then in like 30 seconds, that guy is back alive and he's over there. Sure. I think the book definitely handled it better then. And yeah, so but at the beginning of the movie, Bella and Edward are like running through the woods and can kind of see everything, and he needs to get her food, so they go hunting. But like I know that this doesn't appease you, and this is your point, but it's just not for you. It's just not for you. Yeah, it doesn't. No, and that it's fine. Like if you like the scene, again, that's never a reason to not like this. But as someone who is just watching the movies, and I think in the context of the movie overall, for me, it hurt it. But like, it's fan service because it's the last moments of the saga, and it was fun for everyone that went at the time. I wonder, I guess because it was fun for me the first time too. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun for me the first time too. The second time was the problem, and it doesn't sound like that was a problem here for you or for other people who are big fans of the books. But for me, on a second watch specifically, this hurt the movie more overall, not a first watch. So that is good context. Like I know that it's not real, but I enjoy watching it every time. That's absolutely fair. Yep. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, no, it's a fine enough sequence. Again, it's fan service. It's fan service. And I am not like a fan, right? I'm definitely an outsider coming in to watch these here. So it's a good point, right? Jake, but yeah, so they're at the beginning of the movie and they're running through the woods. Mumble just wanted everyone's heads ripped off for real. I didn't. But why do I care but I don't. I actually like everybody enough, and even the first watch, why it was so shocking was because I already kind of liked, like just even kind of watching things without context. The first time I watched it, I did, we're on their side. I'm rooting for them, and watching everyone's heads get ripped off is devastating when you think it's real. And then when I'm so happy that everyone's okay, right? I really enjoyed all these characters, and they bring in a lot of new vampires too that are hilarious. And that's kind of a part of the problem here, is that we spend so much time with these new characters that they're pulling in to be allies and witnesses to the Volturi fights. A lot of them are hilarious. They're great. They're fantastic, but they are not why I'm watching these movies. They're not why I'm watching these movies. This conflict is not why I'm watching these movies. And that's all this movie was about. Because they have to pull in a lot of different people all over the world to come help them. We're pulling in people from like the Amazon here, right? They're like Amazonian vampire women that come out, and they can like make you see whatever they want you to see, which is pretty cool. You get a bunch of fun powers. There's this one like British or there's this one like revolutionary guy who just has all these one-liners about killing the British, and he's like, I fought a king before, and it wouldn't be the first time that I've rebelled against, like, I fought against like a king. Oh god, what else? He every single one of his lines, I hated the first British invasion, I hated the second one more. And he's like feeding on a guy. He's feeding on like a British guy in America or something like that. Love him. He was fantastic in this movie. You also have like two more classic like Transylvania vampires. They're just dressed in black, and they have the accents, and they're talking about being rulers in their accent and all kinds of stuff, and they're pretty fun to listen to. Like you get a bunch of fun hammy characters here. And they're instantly appealing, and you instantly, right, you don't want to see them get their heads ripped off and everything. But yeah, everybody at the beginning, we immediately start off with like Bella saying Renesmee, and it's driving me insane. I don't even know if I'm saying that correct still. I don't even know if I'm saying Renesmee correct. But she immediately wants to go see her kid for the first time, or not for the first, but like, now that she's alive. Of course you're not. Of course you're not. Oh goodness. Of course you're not saying Renesmee correct. How do I say it? But yeah, so she immediately sees the baby, and it's already like a little bit bigger, and she goes over, and everyone's kind of wary because she's now a newborn vampire. They are historically very dangerous and unable to control themselves. Renesmee. Gotcha. Renesmee. I'm gonna forget pretty soon. But they test start with Jake, and we get like more funny lines here. Bella also seems a lot different as well. Like she's trying to act different here. She's doing like a moderately good job. But she does deliver her lines a bit differently, which I thought was interesting. And she's like, she's like, I finally understand what everyone's talking about. And then she brings up how much Jake stinks. Ronnie needs me. But yeah, but they eventually introduce the fact that Jacob, no, Cariosa, don't do that. They eventually introduce that Jacob is imprinted on the baby, and Bella is very upset about this. She is horribly angry about this. She's supposed to stop stuttering and pausing and whatnot. Roy Noi Smoy. She's supposed to stop starting with that. Roy Noismoy? Oh boy. What is happening? Renesmee. Oh my god. But yeah, Bella is just like unbelievably. Oh no. Roy Noy and 7 Sways ago. Jesus Christ. Bella is super upset and she's literally like throwing Jacob around. I was worried that she was gonna seriously injure him for a second. But she full on throws him from the porch out into the woods and is like pushing around and is super angry about it. Hopefully the music isn't too loud. Bit chaotic here, apologize. Let's handle this though. Turn that down. But yeah, she throws up and throws him out. Girl boss his ass, go Bella. A lot of this movie is, or not a lot about it, but we get a decent amount of setup about how Bella is now the strongest person in the house. We even have like an arm wrestling contest. We spend part of the last movie in an arm wrestling contest. They pull out, she like sets this big ass rock down, and she does it with like Rosalie's boyfriend or whatever. He's not that important. We haven't talked about him too much. He really doesn't do or say anything other than be strong. And she beats him there. And she like breaks his hand through the rock. It's pretty crazy. But Jacob is trying to calm Bella down. He's like, it's not what you think it means. It's a wolf thing. Don't worry about it. And she just cannot hear him really. She's really upset. And then he calls her Nessie. And in her, like, I don't even know how to describe her voice here. She does like a Batman voice. You know what I mean? Where she like lowers it and gravels it. And she's like, you nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster? I wonder if he can even find it. Because this scene is so good. I wonder if we can even find it here. Just because I like her, she just sounds so different.
Do you remember how much you wanted to be around me 3 days ago? That's gone now, right?
Long gone.
Because it was her. From the beginning, it was Nessie who wanted me there.
Nessie? You nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster!
Yeah, that's the only time in these movies that she's ever sounded like that. And she sounds a little bit different throughout the rest of these movies here too. It's not entirely working here. It's an awesome line though. Like there's no way they didn't know when they wrote that line like what they were doing. But it is kind of interesting that, you know, the reason that Bella always wanted Jacob around was because Nessie, can I just say Nessie? That's so much easier for me. That Nessie wanted, the baby wanted Jacob around. I guess I've seen this, seen in a video essay before. Yeah, that's one of the more memorable lines here. That one made me laugh quite a bit. It definitely is lighthearted enough to where you're not really believing that, and this is not a critique, this is just me describing the scene, where it makes the scene fun rather than actually worried about some kind of long-term conflict between Jacob and Bella here. You get the idea or the feeling that this is gonna pass. And it does. It passes. Jacob gets her to come around and he kind of like explains things to her. I don't really have too many notes here. It is what it is. I still don't really understand the whole situation here. They didn't get too much into whether or not this really is like grooming or just protecting. I really don't know. I'm also impressed that there are no sequels. We'll get into that. But yeah, so from here, you know, it's all this big happy family. Like Bella has my cat is inches from me staring into my soul because she wants me to let her put her foot in my cereal. Oh. Bella has a lot of control as well. We kind of learn this too, where she doesn't seem to be like other newborns. She has the ability to subdue her hunger, even in mid-hunt, which surprised pretty much everybody. Unfortunately, though, they still want to. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But yeah, Bella can control her thirst, whatever. Of course she is just randomly special. They come up with so much bullshit in this movie. I don't know how much I really want to get into that, but it really does feel like the canon here, lore here, is pretty willy-nilly. Unfortunately, the canon is that Jacob and Renesmee will be together eventually. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. But there are so many other weird things about this movie. I really don't know what to say about that part. Other than, is this some Mormon fuckery? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that seems pretty strange. I think that's weird. But it's just a wolf thing, right? It's just, he can't help himself. It's just a wolf thing. It's totally normal. Is this a rom-com? Not even close. Not even close. Pretty much, yeah, it is. Oh God, where was I going with this? Oh, but they get like, because, oh, what was it? Oh, at least for like the canon stuff. Yeah, of course she just has randomly special powers. They just make shit up. It doesn't matter. And that's why it's kind of hard to care. Every time I laughed, I don't think I was supposed to be laughing. Yeah, pretty much. Or I don't know, actually. I don't know. Like with the Loch Ness Monster scene, I don't know. I have a hard time believing. This feels like camp to me. I don't know how seriously we're really supposed to take this. Maybe SK can kind of elaborate there or have a good perspective. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Because I have a hard time imagining someone writing like that Loch Ness Monster scene and not wanting the audience to have a good time. For it to be comical, dead serious. for when Edward says, "You are my own personal heroine." I don't know. I feel like that's just, for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating or misinterpreting. It's absolutely not dead serious. Yeah. I thought it all feels like in good fun to me, for the most part, right? There's obviously some very different things going on there. You really liked the new moon movie though, right? But yeah, so later on though, they come up with this bullshit about Bella being able to, oh gosh, whoops. Bella being able to like transmit her powers, exactly when they need her to. She can now, there's this, okay, if you really focus and you picture it, you can make your powers go beyond yourself, and she can now shield everybody from the powers of Arlo and like the pain powers, right? Really liked, is very generous. I think if you laughed, it was a win. So Bella can now apparently just protect everybody from the evil powers of the Volturi. Sure. But at the very beginning of this movie, we're still in like honeymoon fantasy phase where Carlisle and them give Bella and Edward their own personal like beautiful cottage in the woods. Can we even find it? Once again, it just looks so nice. It looks so perfect. Edward, Bella cottage. Oh God, I probably shouldn't have looked this up. Just because there's like okay, here we go. Look at this place. Look at this place. Look, my dream, exactly. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. And it's all theirs, and they get to live out the rest of their lives for eternity in this dreamland. That kind of stuff is still going strong here, which is kind of fun. And we're not going to spend as much time on it because it's not as important to the movie here as it was in the last movie. But Bella and Edward, well, they just go to town. You know what I'm saying? They just go to town. They're nothing holding them back anymore. They just go for it. So we definitely get, a lot more material for 50 Shades of Grey here. If if you know what I mean. But yeah, so they go all out is what I went for there. We have another conflict on the side though. Bella is still trying to go forward with their plan to fake her death. Tell her dad that she's dead. And this kind of really doesn't get resolved. Oh, and there was something else. Oh. Yeah, there's a couple of like loose ends here. Not really. But things that don't get answered that I would have liked. And it doesn't really matter. Like, again, these fight, like, who cares about the powers? Who cares about the fights? But you never really learn why Bella has special powers. I guess it's just like, she just, yeah, thank God that she does. That came in pretty clutch. I was wondering if she was, an ancestor of some kind of ancient people, or how does it not get resolved? They never haven't. They just don't explain why she has these powers. She just has them, and that's fine. Like, I don't really care, but I was hoping for an answer there. This isn't like a critique. I was wondering. It was a question that it was a mild question that I had. Why is she resistant to all these vampire powers? And it was a question because it's so talked about, right? The fact that she's able to do these things is repeatedly brought up. I mean, with her dad. Oh, nothing crazy there. Yeah, nothing crazy there. I just would have liked, it would have been nice to see him again. It would have been nice to see him again. That's all. Like, right at the very end of the movie, they're short on time. I would have liked for we don't really see them all together again. At a certain point in the movie, they send him on a camp. They send him on a fishing trip, right? So he's just gone. But and we do get like a happily ever after sequence here at the end too, which I just wasn't, again, this is fan service stuff. It's not for me, right? You get to see like Edward and Bella living happily. Alice gets like a vision, and you get like this nice little dream sequence about them, walking along beaches and staring at sunsets. And Renesmee, older, standing next to Jacob. Oof. But yeah, nothing ever with the dad again, which again is fine. He's just kind of kept in the dark. He's kind of kept in the dark about all this vampire stuff. But Jacob does tell him that he's a werewolf. Jacob does tell him that he's a werewolf to stop Bella from leaving, pretty much. To stop Bella from not only leaving the town, but telling everybody that she's dead. And we get like another comical scene where Jacob like pulls the dad into the woods and just starts stripping. He just starts stripping down, and he takes off his shirt, and the dad is like, Jacob, what are you doing? It's one of those kind of scenes. And what's even more funny is that, even though the dad has no context for any of this stuff, he just watches. He's like, no, don't do that. And he just watch. Yeah. So it was a happy compromise. And Jacob turns into a wolf and he yells, and they're able to bring him over to the house now, and they don't tell him everything, like she's a vampire, and pretty much just that stuff. Yeah, that scene is 1,000%. Oh, of course not. The lines are very clearly directed to be humorous. And they're delivering stuff too. Look at my abs, psych. I'm a big dog. Holy moly. Holy moly. I said that out loud. I said those words out loud. Oh God. As per usual, the dad, pretty much all of his lines are not serious. He's usually joking 99% of the time. He's definitely kind of like a comic relief character, and that's something that kind of stood out to me for this movie too. We had a lot more lines that are closer to the Marvel sentiment, right? Like and nothing too intrusive, but definitely a lot of humorous one-liners here. Definitely a lot of jokes to be had here before we spend a lot of time recruiting people. Not even then though. Even when they're recruiting people, we get like a one-liner from every single new vampire. which makes them charming. But also, I want to spend time with the people we've been watching. With the people we've been watching here. Yeah, but he strips down, and he comes to the house, and you know, I was surprised, but Bella is able to just control her thirst. It's not a problem whatsoever. For it's like barely a problem. Her thirst is barely a problem, kind of, at the beginning of the movie, but it's really not. She doesn't ever need to be restrained one time. She just has it under control. Okay. But she's able to like full on hug her dad without any problems. And they do introduce the baby to the dad as their daughter. Originally they said it was a niece, now it's her daughter. And oh god, what did he say? I don't know if I wrote down what he said. He's like, he like pauses for a second, and he was like, oh yeah, adoption. Rami Malek is my favorite of the new vampires. He's very cool too. He probably has like the coolest powers of the new vampires. She literally does need to be restrained the first time. Edward never restrains her. Edward does stop her. She runs away, and she's climbing up a cliff, and they reach like a plateau, and there's like a climber up there, and Edward goes up and is like, Bella, don't do this. And she turns and looks at him and is like, and she makes a couple of faces where she's like, she like growls a little bit, and then she runs off. Well, because they adopted her, which, yeah, that is close enough. It's we've had scenes where like Jasper needed to be like Jasper, who's a vampire for a long time now, has not been drinking blood for a long time now, is not a newborn, does not have the same kind of, you know, like super thirst and strength of a newborn, and even he in multiple scenes needs to be pulled out of the room and restrained and you know, forcibly stopped. I think that like even Edward is like even Edward makes a comment about it too, where he's like, I am shocked that like no one else has been able to. I've never ever seen anybody control their thirst like you do. But that's because Jasper has been drinking human blood for 100 years. I'm just telling you like I see it. Like they're you know, because they've just set up so many times over and over again, especially like everybody has even planned around the fact that she will need to be monitored and to even have like extra blood on hand to make sure that she doesn't immediately start trying to murder people. Like they come up with all kinds of contingencies and stuff like that. Everything is coming down, and Renesmee is kind of like a fully grown child now, or like 7 or 8 years old or something. And we're out in the woods with Bella and Jacob, and Renesmee just has like every power, apparently. She like flies up into the air, and she's like catching snowflakes and stuff like that. And it's pretty crazy. But of course, we get some kind of silly drama, and we'll get into this again, but Irina, the vampire from the last movie, you said it right one time. That'll probably be the only time. The vampire from the last movie that was at the wedding, and she's honestly kind of like that. She honestly is kind of like that. Irina from the last movie, who was at the wedding and stormed off because her lover was killed by the werewolves because they killed her boyfriend or whatever. She is up on a cliff and sees Renesmee. She sees Renesmee like float up into the air, makes a bunch of faces, and then runs off. We don't know what that's about, right? But it doesn't seem good, and it just seems like you know, this is the instigating moment of all the conflict to come. This is the instigating moment of all to come, and I know it doesn't look like I didn't take any notes here, but the next important point is that Irina shows up at the Volturi's place and is reporting a crime, which we don't really understand, right? As far as we can see, nothing bad has happened, but as soon as, oh, I can't remember his name. The main Volturi guy. I can't remember his name. He's incredible though. I loved him. He is so good. He is so crazy. he makes the best faces, and just like the way that, I don't know, his eyes are, and how he moves around and how he talks. I loved him. I loved him. Definitely not, not like I feel like Joker is a pretty good comparison from The Dark Knight. Arrow. Yeah, Arrow was fantastic. It's definitely not like Heath Ledger Joker chills every single time I watch it kind of performance, but it's a lot of fun to watch him do his thing there. I had a great time watching him kind of be delightfully evil. he has no shame whatsoever in his evilness, and I appreciate that. And he's just doing things and is very, very self-centered. And he's a lot of fun to at least watch, which I appreciate. Like versus somebody like Irina or Victoria, I think her name was, who are just kind of angry and not that interesting, or don't even have like this cool look to them. He is a lot of fun. So that's a good point there. But he instantly looks shocked when he reads her memories and stuff. What is happening with this music? I sent you an Arrow meme and you left me on red. I forgot to respond. Just getting roasted here. Just getting roasted. Let's see here. The more oh my god. More but yeah. So Arrow is planning to attack them and stuff, and Alice sees a vision and is telling everybody that they need to get ready for an attack, and they're trying to figure out why, and they bring up Irina because Irina was seen in the vision as well. And we figure out this new information about something about like immortal children. I guess there's something about immortal children, which are these vampire children. When they're bit and turned, they stop aging, but they also stop maturing. So if they go on tantrums, these super powerful beings would literally destroy villages in the past. They would destroy villages and threaten becoming like widely known, the vampires. So back in the day, they went around destroying them all, and we get like a nice little fun visual of this too, like a little period scene of them burning. Like they literally like take the child and throw him into the fire and all this kind of stuff. And as per usual, I think I brought it up in the last discussion, but as per usual, this entire conflict is based around misinformation and not communicating, which is frustrating. It's almost been like that, not every single time, but a lot of these conflicts, like with Jacob in the last one, and even like Bella just not telling her dad, like, or just saying things up front, like these are varying sizes of issues here. Like Bella not telling her dad is a very, very small issue to me. This one here is a much larger issue, much more frustrating when it's a major conflict, which is just that, Irina went and told them information that wasn't correct, and now we have this whole big conflict here. They kind of tried dealing with this, but it was a bit difficult. I just generally have, like, it's just one of those things where it instantly puts me off, and it takes some time to win me back over. And it really didn't do enough to win me back over, is my point here. That scene and that idea still upsets me, right? Like we have spent 4 movies with these characters not setting up this conflict pretty much whatsoever. Like, we are only mildly aware. Renesmee is a shit name. No, of course it is. It is terrible, and it bothers me every time they say it. I thank God, like, Nessie was a good choice there. Every time they say it, I cringe and groan and throw my head back. But we have spent 4 movies not setting up this conflict, and then the best that we can do to instigate it is, wait, why did you say go back, recap the last 20 seconds? that we've been I lost my sound. Oh no, okay. Well, just that we have spent the last 4 movies setting up this conflict and working, or not setting up this conflict. We have spent the past 4 movies with these characters, and the Volturi have only been established as a force, and what we're like, what this final conflict has not been built up to. I can't remember how exactly I said it, but I don't feel like this conflict was properly set up, and the only way that they could get it to happen was to have this misinformation happen, right? That was the best. And I'm looking at this from like, and this is on me, right? This is how I approach stories, where I just don't take things at face value, and I always question everything, and that's something to be aware of, right? Like I don't trust things that characters say. I always wonder about other motivations, or if they have ulterior motives, or if they're not being like entirely truthful, right? And I also think about it on the level of why specifically did this writer write it this way? What choices drove these people to make these things? And that's not entirely like relevant to the movie, but I think that this was like the only way that she was able to instigate this conflict or make this conflict that she wanted to happen, was this misinformation here. And this whole like random immortal child thing, which is what it is, right? It really isn't the biggest deal in the world, but it does frustrate me a little bit. Stank feet. Jacob is a little crybaby, and why is Bella putting on Chuck Taylors without socks? She's gonna have stank feet. Stank feet. Oh my god. Jacob is a little crybaby. He is. He is. He spends most of these movies like screaming and telling Bella how she should feel. How she should feel. And why is Bella putting on Chuck Taylors without socks? She's gonna have stank feet. Even I put on socks. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that was the best that they could do to make this conflict happen, and in the end the conflict was barely worth it because it was all just kind of like a dream sequence, and it's really it seems like cheap drama to me, and that might not, like, it's probably fun enough to justify having in the movie, and I think maybe splitting these movies into parts might be my issue here, right? Because this whole movie is about this conflict and I don't particularly care about it. And part 1, it's mostly about Bella and Edward, which I enjoy so much more. So if you look at it as a book, as a complete thing where you're not interrupted and there's not like, you're not having to do other things to make the story work as its own, then that might be a lot better for me. I'm not reading the books, right? I'm not reading the books. But yeah, so that was a bit frustrating, and you can kind of pick up points throughout the movies as well. The rest of the previous movies where the author has done this before too, before as well to instigate conflicts. But again, but that's not why you watch these movies, right? That's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. We're here for like Bella and Edward saying all kinds of crazy stuff, and they kind of do. Unfortunately though, but now we're getting into the stuff where if Bella don't give a single fuck that Edward used to kill people, why even show a flashback to just hand wave it away? You know, like, I don't know. To Bella don't give a single fuck that Edward used to kill people, why even show a flashback? I think it was to make Edward more appealing and to fill in the blanks or questions, or you know, the author may have viewed it as a plot hole, right? Or something that Edward would need to deal with or should be questioned about. Like, you could have a lot of people asking, why does Bella like him? He used to murder people at some point. They handle that question and completely stamp it in the ground by saying he was a vigilante that only killed the bad guys. He is nice and clean. Edward has no moral questions to deal with pretty much whatsoever. He might have killed somebody at some point. We never talk about that. He you know, I think it's only to make him more sympathetic, more romantic, and to close up that loophole. You know, I don't know, SK, if you have additional thoughts there, or if the books have more, can elaborate more, but that would be my guess why. But yeah, so the conflict is coming, and Alice and Jasper ditch them. They just run away, or they go out and do their own thing, and they leave a nice note, kind of cluing them into what they should do. What could I say that would matter to y'all? I mean, it's always good. It's always good to hear a lot of different perspectives. It's just the vibes, man. It's just the vibes, man. It's just the vibes. Yeah, I think those vibes are just making you love Edward more. I sat here while he shit talked some of my faves. Of course it makes sense that he killed bad people. I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think it does. I think it's. I mean, it's up to interpretation always, right? Of course it makes sense that I love him more, right? It's always up to interpretation here. But I guess you can look at Carl. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on things that I don't have too much context for. That's who he is. He doesn't want to be a monster, but they set up at the beginning that they don't have control. Like, as much as he doesn't want to be a monster, he still has to control himself and has impulses that can make him do things that he doesn't want to do. A good example of this is why he doesn't want to sleep with Bella, is because he's so terrified that he's going to lose control and murder her. And if he's afraid of losing control and murdering Bella, maybe he's afraid of losing control or has lost control and murdered somebody else that he shouldn't have. Maybe my issue is I've always liked the villain that wanted to be the monster. Give me the bad baddies. Oh my god, no. You know what I mean? Like, and again, this is how I look at stories. I don't take things at face. He's not afraid that he's gonna drink her blood, murder her. What's he afraid of then? He reacted so strongly to even just her being bruised, and Jacob was afraid that he was literally, Jacob was like, you're gonna die if you don't, you're not gonna, he's just afraid that he'll hurt her physically because she's so fragile. I don't know, man. I don't know about that one. Like, we get a whole direct line that he'll like break her and die. And even Jacob is worried about this. We have a couple of very direct lines about Jacob saying just this. Jacob very, very specifically is like, you are going to kill her. Yeah, but it's not about the blood. It's just, I know. It's just about killing her, right? And if he can kill her, or I see what you mean. I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you do have more context from the books and stuff. But from my perspective about how the movies are presenting it, like, so that's not what I'm saying. You said it was his vampire impulses, but that's not what he's just. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I don't know about that one. Like, even he taught, like, he has not always been able to control himself, right? He said there was even a point, this girl's been bleeding all over the place. He's been chill since, like, the very start. You know, there was a reason that he left Carlisle's coven and went out to hunt people, and that was because he wanted blood. It took him time to not want blood. And he very, very much, like, that's why he didn't want Bella to turn too. He very, very much understands how difficult it is to control, and how it makes you feel. This girl's been bleeding all over the place. He'd been chill since, like, the very start. He says in the clip that her blood doesn't bother him anymore because he spent so much time controlling himself. At the beginning it did. And even before that, you know, he didn't always have this amount of control, right? You know what I mean? I just don't buy that he's always been this knight in shining armor, that he's always been able to control himself, right? So in part one, that's not the issue. I don't know. At least from my perspective, it's like he is in a very intense moment and can very easily lose control. We can agree to disagree there, but I don't really buy that too much here. So they start collecting all of these vampires from all over the place. I did actually teach them they need witnesses. They're going out and collecting witnesses and stuff, and Renesmee, I don't know if I've set this up at all, but Renesmee is able to touch someone and transmit her memory. So it's kind of like the opposite of Arlo, I guess. Arrow, I can't even remember exactly what his name is here, but she gives her memories instead of like Arlo receiving them or reading them, right? So I actually did get chills during this part where Renesmee is like putting her face on these vampires' hand on these vampires' faces, and and like transmitting the information and like how special and unique she is, and their realization of that, and kind of deciding to come and protect the Cullens and fight on their behalf. I got chills there. I thought that was kind of nice, but only for a moment. You know what I mean? That's kind of how they're convincing people, though, is with that power, is with her doing that by directly showing them. And you have this child's face, convincing child's hand, convincing people to fight for them. That was pretty cool. Seeing all of them come together, it's all good and fun. But now they have to start now. But now we just get into like training sequences, right? Now we're going into training. We're teaching Bella this new bullshit idea of, you know, expanding her powers and how she's a shield. And they've also extended the idea of Bella being immune to she's just immune to vampire powers, period. At least here, you know, the vampire electrocution girl cannot electrocute Bella. She cannot electrocute Bella. So I'm not really sure where the line is here. I know that there are like different examples of this working and not working. At least for the electrocution and other things, it doesn't work, and neither does the pain thing. Like it's not a problem. It's only because we've talked about it before. Like in the movie, in these movies, they never really go into how her powers work, and they have like mildly set up that she is obviously a shield and immune to all this stuff. But it's just like training sequences, right? So more vampires are coming into town, so more wolves are changing, and more wolves are changing mean these wolves need to be trained, and Bella needs to be trained, and everyone's kind of getting ready and giving speeches and sure, but there aren't like too many great lines here. We get a lot of just repetitive vampires coming into town and them getting their own moments, and this thing by a vampire, like a campfire where they're all sitting around and telling stories and stuff, and it's never like really the people that we care about that are talking here. And Bella starts looking into more about why Alice left, and Alice has apparently left a whole trail of clues for Bella. She's left a whole trail of clues for Bella, and Bella follows this trail, and she finds like a passport, and she meets a guy named like Jay Jinx. Like this stuff I just don't, it's not that much fun. I don't really care. She meets a guy, she gets an envelope, he gives her passports, and it's just two, and the idea is that Alice is theoretically Bella believes that Alice is setting it up in case they fail for Renesmee and Jacob to run off and be safe with these passports and stuff. And Bella has to come to terms with the idea of not having a future with her daughter, which they don't really talk about. She just kind of, you know, they get like a couple of scenes looking at each other. It's not that compelling or emotional. It just kind of is what it is. But yeah, the daughter has a future. It's just not with them, is the idea here. And they all come to terms with that and are willing to come together and sacrifice themselves for Renesmee. Oh my gosh. And then like they go to Christmas and they're all waiting for this, because Alice has also given them the destined time where this fated battle is going to come together. And they're waiting at Christmas and they're opening presents, and the dad is, you know, doing his one-liners, and I guess he's dating someone. You really don't have to wonder why it's taken him so long to find the right woman. And we're not going to get into her too much. She doesn't really have anything to say anything about, but I love like one line where the dad is like, he's talking about the fishing trip, and he's like, "Woman knows her trout." I'm like, all right. Okay, woman knows her trout. Oh boy. Oh God, we have another great line too. We had another great line too from the British guy. What did he say? He was like, but that scene is so funny. It really is. It really is. He is a pretty funny guy. Are you trying to get rid of me? Cause it's working. Lol. Yeah. You have like a beat where Bella and Edward kind of like look at each other, and he's like, and he like leans forward, and he's like, cause it's working. We're gonna fish for all these things, and his lady friend comes and sits on his lap, and she makes some comment, and that's when the trout line comes in. Sure. Oh, what, there was something else that one of the British vampire guy says. He starts flirting with the British vampire, starts flirting with one of the other vampires. I hope I wrote this line down, because he said something really funny to her. Oh god, I can't remember. He was like, I'm gonna follow this woman to the ends of the earth or something. I can't remember what exactly that she says here. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere, woman. And the way he said it was just crazy. Like, cause she makes him kneel or something, and he's like looking up at her, and he's like, I will follow you anywhere, woman. He's great. Is what I put. He's fantastic. But yeah, eventually the final conflict comes around. Oh, we're just gonna like move through this pretty quickly here. You know, of course the truth comes out, right? It's all kind of tense and stuff, and Arlo reads all their memories and, you know, is trying to come up with some kind of reason to actually keep continuing the conflict here. They murder the informer and burn her alive, or dead, I suppose. Not alive. They rip her head off and then they burn her. It was pretty crazy. But again, it's like miscommunication, and now he's having to come up with a reason to actually fight them. And the point is, like, we can't live in unknowns. We have to deal with problems before they can begin. This child must be destroyed. He just wants Alice, right? I guess is what we're talking about here. Okay, it was kind of cute how Bella looked like she was gonna throw up walking down the aisle till she looked at Edward. It is. I agree. I think that whole beginning part of part one is just like fantasy. It is dream fantasy wedding where everything is beautiful and perfect, right? For sure. And the dad looking nervous. It's all very, very cute, and that's a part of the fun. And me like not being able to handle it because it does work on me like a little. It works on me enough to be like, why is this working on me? If you know what I mean. But I literally didn't take any notes here. Like, it just doesn't matter whatsoever. You know, Arlo comes up with some reason. Alice comes out of the woods and gives and is like, I can give you proof, whatever. Man, they're about to have sex though. Yeah, Arlo, we get this long vision about Arlo and them fighting, and you get to see all your favorite characters fighting and doing their thing and getting their heads ripped off, and after like a couple minutes or so, it's over, and you realize that it was just a vision by Alice that he saw and read into, and it scared him off. Right? End of movie. End of movie. Not really, but pretty much, right? Everyone kind of like looks at each other, and that's kind of it. We end up back in the lavender field again, and they say some stuff to each other. I don't know. Like, I think Bella lets him read her mind. Maybe I think she's like able to control her power, so Edward can read her mind or something. And you get this really. I'm sure that people love this scene. I'm absolutely positive that people love this scene, and that's very, very, very cute. I'm sure that everybody finds the end of this movie very, very cute. But after like kind of being more emotionally subdued and not as invested, I was not able to really get into this scene. And you know, we get this like long vision with this with this music that I don't know, you'll probably even know this song where I would wait 1,000 years or something. I know you're gonna say it doesn't matter, but you totally skip the half vampire guy they bring out. I forgot about that. Yeah, I didn't even note it down. Like I was so disengaged. That's how I was so disengaged from this point. Like I kind of just ignored, because I kind of just ignored this whole part of the movie. Alice brings with her a half vampire person who tells them that everything is going to work out and be fine. How lucky. How conveniently lucky. How great. They got exactly what they needed. And you know, everybody can move on and go home. Yeah, sure. You know, again, this whole conflict is just, I'm not invested in it. But this was a somewhat, like, it's a beautiful sequence here at the end where you see them and all of the visions of them, of their past and all the struggles and all how much Bella like really loves him, and you kind of get a peek into their future and stuff. We actually have a good line at the end here. You know, it doesn't end like New Moon where she gasps at the end. You know what I mean? We actually have a kind of sweet line and this very sweet song, 1,000 Years. I think I remember hearing this. Do you guys know the song 1,000 Years? I remember hearing this song back. I remember loving this song. I remember loving this song back in 7th grade or something like that. Now, okay. And Edward, or I can't remember who said, but they like look at each other and they're like, we've got a lot of time, and they're sitting in the flowers, and then they're like, forever. and the music cues up, and we go right into the credit sequences here, and the movie's over. Yeah, the movie's over. You know, it didn't build up to enough of these things enough for me, right? You know, watching these movies day by day and not having read the books and having all of these interruptions and all of these things that either slow down the pace or my care here, and just not spending enough time on Bella and Edward and Renesmee, which I just would have loved to have seen more of, and maybe dealing with some other conflicts and just having another light bad guy again, rather than spending the whole movie on this conflict. When it was over, I was like, all right, okay, I guess that's it. I guess we're done here, which is a bit sad. Yeah, which is a bit sad. I'm happy that everybody's okay. You know what I mean? I'm so happy that I watched this movie or watched all of these movies. Had an absolute blast of a time. It was so much fun, and even like, you know, this movie by no means ruins the rest of the movies at all. Like it's not like I would just skip this movie down the line if I would ever rewatch these, and I absolutely would rewatch these too. I would absolutely rewatch these movies. I would, you know, I think these are fun event type movies, marathon movies. Definitely a wonderful time on your own and with other people too. This by no means at all makes me not want to watch the series over again. You know, compared to something like Game of Thrones, where why am I watching? Like, I mean, Cariosa, you just went through this. I can't believe that, but like I had such a problem, just for context, with the end of Game of Thrones, that I don't consider it worth it to rewatch the show. Even with how good some of those early seasons are, it doesn't build up to enough for me to want to invest that much time again. This is not the case here, right? There were still a lot of moments in this movie that I enjoyed, that I loved even, and I have no doubt whatsoever that everybody else is probably going to like the end of this movie quite a bit. I imagine there are tears to be had. Like the song is beautiful, right? The song is beautiful. It's such a good time. It really is. It's such a good time. I've been having a blast talking about them, even this one. It just takes you back to 2012. It was a time to be alive. These movies, I mean, yeah, and these movies were just like infamously talked about, right? Especially for like this age group, because I grew up when these movies were coming out, right? There was like vitriol, you know, people loved them. Like I specifically like remember a girl having her, I remember this clearly, right? I was in 7th grade sitting in science class, and the girl next to me had the Twilight book, and it was just, and it would sit on her desk, and it would cause instant discussion and debate about about why are you reading Twilight and what's it about and why, like, I'm never reading that. Let me tell you something. You have the floor. Why is she having a romantic moment with Jacob at her wedding? What a fantastic question. You know, up to the end of this movie, we get Connor read all the books just This is not surprising to me. This is not surprising. This is not surprising to me. This is not surprising to me whatsoever. Connor read all the books just to talk to girls. Yeah, that does not surprise me at all. That's really funny. Very on brand. Yeah, no, that seems like right on the nose there. In fact, man, it's like almost too much. At the Forks, that's really funny. At the Forks, because I'm sure that he's not the only one, right? I'm positive that Connor is not the only one who did that, which is also making me laugh here. I'm sure that so many other guys did this as well. Jacob reads an overly aggressive insult to me. Why don't you love me? Why do no women love me? I think he's a bit too charismatic and beautiful, but I see what you mean. She's the one that took us inside the secret archives, and that's how we saw Chess. At the Forks visitor office, there was a woman there who moved across the country to live there and lead tours. Good for her. She's living her best life. She was a joy too. Absolutely. That's very cool. You know, good for her. Charisma. Oh, come on. I mean, I maybe I'm more of just going off of like how do the kids say it? How do the aura, right? That's where the kids are saying it. Aura. Come on. Jacob, Twilight. Come on. Back in the day, Jacob has negative aura. You're nuts. When he talks, he does. Yeah. When he talks, he absolutely does. Edward has 10,000 aura. I mean, I agree. Yeah, you're my own personal heroine. Team Jacob looking at. I'm Team Edward. I'm just calling it like it is. I like Edward more. I think Edward is significantly more interesting and somehow, I don't know. I was gonna say less problematic, but you know, that's not true. But yeah, no, I'm just saying it like it is. Yeah, charisma where? He's very much that. She's the one that took us inside the archives, and that's how we saw Esme. That's very cool. It's been a time. I'm sad that it's over.